Christ is risen. Indeed, he has risen. Grand rising, grand arrival, grand return. Peace and blessings to the righteous and the repentant alike. I am Chief Sophia of the Americana Band of Indians, and I don't know what's going on in this energy, but I have found something really important that I wanted to share. And I have to make longer videos on this, but this is another really important placeholder. So I was looking at the feast calendar that I put out for everybody, the feast and fast, the feast calendar, and I was wondering about the Feast of Sukkot, which is the Feast of Tabernacles, right? And something about the scripture jumped out to me, so I wanted to look at what it said in my Orthodox Bible, because I know that things read a little bit differently in here. So the Feast of Tabernacles, they talk about that in Leviticus 23, but I'm going to read 39 through 43 of Leviticus 23. So also on the 15th day of the 7th month, when you have gathered in the fruit of the land, you shall keep the feast of the Lord for 7 days. On the first day there shall be a rest, and on the 8th day a rest. And you shall take for yourselves on the first day the ripe fruit of a tree, leaves of palm trees, and the branches of leafy trees, and the pure willows of the brook. And you shall rejoice before the Lord your God for 7 days. You shall keep it as a feast to the Lord for 7 days in the year. It shall be an ordinance forever in your generations. You shall celebrate it in the 7th month. Verse 42, you shall dwell in booths for 7 days. All who are native Israelites shall dwell in booths, that your generations may know that I made the children of Israel dwell in booths when I brought them out of the land of Egypt. I am the Lord your God. Okay, so that word booth really stuck out to me, because it's referring to when he brought them out of Egypt. And so the indication, or what I've heard people say and what they do in Jerusalem, is they go and they sleep in tents. When they leave out of whatever, they go and they sleep in tents. But when I looked up that word booth, it was it was referenced, that specific word was also referenced in Job. Let me see if it was referenced in Job. Where in Job was that? I think it was 4. Where it's referenced in Job, which I can't find now, of course. Where it's referenced in Job, it's not talking about it's not talking about a place that has let's see if I wrote it down. I didn't. It's not talking about a tent. When it's referenced in Job, it's actually talking about a location where the rich people lived, and that the rich people had to give up their wealth in order to basically I don't remember. Rich people had to give up their wealth. Basically, it was talking about a place like that. So when I just thinking about that, I'm like, wait a minute. So that doesn't sound like a tent. It actually sounds like vacation. Because when the Israelites, in one of the tellings of the story, they're in wherever they are for 3 days. They're feasting for 3 days. And I had thought about that, like, okay, so you leave Israel, like Egypt, with whatever, like this, like whatever you got on you, you just leave with that. You go into the woods and where there's nothing, and somehow you're feasting. Like, again, the math ain't mathing. And so I think that um, the answer to this is in the feast schedule that we keep. So back over to the feast schedule. The Feast of Sukkot for this year, it starts on the 15th day to 7 months. So for this year, that's the 5th of October, October the 5th. And it ends on Monday, October the 13th. That's the 8th day of the feast. It says, "You shall dwell in booths for 7 days." I don't think those are tents. I think those are like cabins or like hotel rooms. I think they're talking about going on vacation. You're going to take a vacation, a 7-day, 8-day vacation. On the first day, you're going to buy all the stuff that you need so that you don't have to do any work, and then you'll have enough to last you through the 8th day, or sometimes in the days 2 through 7, you go and get what you need so that on the 8th day you can also rest. So I think that historically our people were on vacation at this time when the Feast of Tabernacles came. This is important. My phone is getting hot, I could tell. This is important because at this same time there's a holiday that's back in the news called Columbus Day. And what is the story that they always tell? When they got here, everybody was gone. There was nobody here, and we just assumed, in the way that we understand things, that we had just moved off. What if we were on vacation? What if when they got here, we were on vacation? Because after this 8th day, you don't really go back to work until pretty much the first day of the year. You wait. All of your work is done between the first day of the year, which in this case would have been the 21st of 2025. And pretty much you don't do, once you're done on the 13th of October, you're done for the year. You sit back and you relax. What would you do? You would go on vacation. It is indeed same thing with Thanksgiving. Those fall holidays, they were able to enjoy here because we weren't here. We were on vacation. And when we got back from wherever we were on vacation on, these people had moved into our houses. These people were eating our food that we had saved up. These people were wearing our clothes, our personal garments, our underwear. They were living on our land. And they were like, well, you guys weren't here. We were on vacation. Especially if they had come in the 49th year, because in the 49th year, that's we'll have to go into this. In the 49th year, that's a year of remission. We're gone for a whole year. We go on vacation for a whole year in the 49th year. Really, it's like 3 years, because you spend a year loading up, like, preparing the place where you're going to go. You spend a year preparing the place where you're going to go. You go to a place for a year and you chill out for a whole year. And then when you start moving all the stuff back for where you went for this whole year, that's when you start like your planting and stuff. You reset. You leave for a whole year. Listen to what I'm saying. On the 49th year, you're gone for a whole year. You're pretty much gone on the 48th year too, and you're gone on the 50th year. Every 50 years we do this. It's not like we leave and never come back. But what happens? We go on vacation. Every year for 3 years, every 50 years. We're on vacation for 3 years. These people, if they showed up in one of these Jubilee years, we would have been gone for 3 years. And when we came back, what? They literally acted like they owned the stuff. They wrote up deeds. They're squatters. And I said this feels very much like rape. They literally raped us. Because if I come to my house that I had gone on vacation and left all the stuff just so, and when I showed up at my house, somebody's wearing my clothes and my underwear, talking about the pictures on the wall is their family, even though that's my family, stole my gold, looked everything up, I would feel like I had been abused, violated. They violated us. But it's not in the way that the Pan-Africans tell the story. It's not the way that the other natives tell the story. And it's definitely not the way the Hebrews tell the story. Nobody understands this, but it's clearly there. If you read this Leviticus, it is clearly there. They literally showed up when we were on vacation and took over as if we were never there. Now, how do you deal with that? I mean, it is in here how that's supposed to be dealt with. And, we'll get to that. But I just wanted to make a quick video to bring that up. Like, we were on vacation. This is what I mean by taking your feast seriously. The reason now everybody's afraid to do feasts is because when we did follow our feast schedule, that's when these people came in and take over our property and take over our land. And as you can see, that's not going to be tolerated anymore. The land is literally, like I said yesterday, crying out to us to come back to the womb theology. And the womb theology is, if you've been working and working and working and working, you have to take a vacation. Once you give birth to the baby, somebody have to come and help you. There's no getting around that. So, because these colonizers know that, they took the feasting out of our community and made it so that we always had to work, because they were afraid that what would happen if we went on vacation. Because they know what happens when we go on vacation. We're supposed to be on vacation for like 3 years. 3 full years of vacation. The year before, the year during, and then on the 3rd year, it even says in the Bible on the they call it the 49th year, you eat what you got from the 48th year, and then on the 50th year you eat what you saved up from the 49th year. So when we went on vacation, you had to have 2 years basically 3 years worth of food stored up. Literally 3 years worth of food stored up to go on this vacation. So imagine when we came back from our vacation, we started rolling back in so we could get back in order and, start our schedules all over again. These people had just taken everything. And so that's why it's really important to us reclaiming our feast schedule, our proper feast schedule throughout the year, and then also within the 49 and the 50 years is really important, because it sets the stage for our restoration. We can't we can't get restitutions if we don't follow the feast schedule. So on the 50th year, the 49th year of the feast schedule, when we're supposed to go on to this time of rest and relaxation for a whole year, we have to do that. So what are we doing now as a community? We're on vacation. Black people are not getting involved in all of this stuff, and they're trying to force us to get involved because they know it's about to be 50 years of lack for them. Basically, this is how it works. See, when people are talking about the Jubilee, they never explain to you how it works. Why is it that the Hebrews don't talk about feasting? And all their feasting is nothing. So basically, we went on vacation. We stayed in hotels for a whole year. Now, that story makes more sense. So when they left out of Egypt and they went into the woods where they would have built their resorts. They would have had places built already. Their booths would have been built. So all they did was go into and matter of fact, it would be booths built in multiple places, because you have to prepare for this for a year. And you don't always want to go to the same place. You go to different places. So there would have been booths built in multiple places, and people would have known, oh, that's what this is for. and it would have been no problem. Probably would have had a schedule where we rotate around, or maybe we went somewhere for 1 year, but we never went back. That's why there's all this stuff that was built all over the country that wasn't being used. It was for our feast, for our 1 year where we took off and everybody just hung out with each other and you reset. That's literally what it was for. That's what it's for. And people don't, if you don't take this stuff literally, or you don't ask the questions, you would never know. It doesn't make sense without putting it into context. And I would never know if I had never calculated. Why? Because the Day of Atonement is the most important. Why? Because the Day of Atonement is the last fast, basically, before the Feast of Sukkot. The Feast of Sukkot is every year. Every year you're supposed to go on vacation for 8 days and sit back and relax yourself for 8 days. Every year. Every year. And then what? Every 50 years, 49 years, that's when you know you getting ready to go on vacation for a year, 3 years. If our elderly people in our community was able to take 3 years of vacation, do you know how much longer they would live? Would you not live till 100? Would you not live till 200? Would you not live till 300 if every 50 years you got 3 years to just sit back, rest, recuperate, talk to people, see your grandkids and all? Would you not? Would you not recuperate faster if that was the case? We have to get back into this. Now, don't give me the line. I don't know what this means because I got to go back and do some more calculations. I'm just saying for a fact, every year we're supposed to take 8 days off and do absolutely nothing. And it doesn't mean 8 days off and go back to work on the 9th day. That's not what that is. That's like 8 days that you dedicate to this feast that you have to do. And then you mosey yourself back in to whatever you have to do. And basically you have to have everything set up. You have to plan, you have to prepare. That's why the time between the Day of Atonement, which is on this year, is September the 29th, the morning of September the 29th into the morning of September 30th. You got 5 days before the Feast of Sukkot starts. That's when after that Day of Atonement, the Creator comes, checks you out, make sure you're straight. 5 days later, you're supposed to be in your vacation. You have 5 days to travel to your vacation. That's why it makes sense. You do all your cleaning, you clean your house up, because after that, you gone. You pack up after your Day of Atonement and you headed towards where you go on a vacation. And then you are in place, ready to start your celebration on the 5th of October for 8 days. That's how our schedule would have worked. So we did have feasting in here, but they turned it into something else. Because they don't understand the calendar. They don't understand our people. Because it's for the native Israelites. I don't know who these other Israelites are. It's like, that to me says that there's multiple kinds of Israelites. It specifically says in here, native Israelites. So I don't know who these other Israelites are. I don't know. And I don't care. I'm just saying there's a way that things are supposed to be done. And this is how it's done celestially. So we get into alignment properly, we'll be in alignment, and there's nothing they can do to pull us out of that. So I just wanted to make, and of course they don't want that, because guess what? That means every 50 years we're used to taking a break. They tried to break that with us all the way back in Israel, and what happened? As soon as we left, we went straight back into the energy. There's nothing that they can do. As a matter of fact, that means that the Day of Atonement was probably the day that the last plague occurred. And then that's why we ran out the way that we did, because the last plague had occurred. And then after 3 days, they came running after us, and so we had to cross the river. But that would have started our Feast of Sukkot. And in the Orthodox Bible, I'm sorry, I want to read this. This is really important. This is what it says about that verse 39. There was a feast on the 8th day after Tabernacles began. It was the end date, the leave taking of the Feast of Tabernacles. It completed the feast of the 7th month as well. This final day was the consummation, or great high point of the feast. It was the 8th day, the first day of the season of rest. The day itself was to be a day of complete rest. No work whatsoever was to be done. The planting, the cultivating, and the harvesting had all been accomplished. Now it was time to rest. The 8th day was a type of the new creation, the day that never ends, when all of our labors and trials are over. It is a day of the establishment of the eternal kingdom of God in its fullness. All is completed, all is renewed, all is at rest. The true new world has begun. It is the fulfillment of the work of Christ for us. And basically, that's the great eighth day. That's the first day of rest. You don't celebrate that day and then go right back to work. No, that's your first day of your rest time, your rest season. And so that's how it's supposed to be observed. And so I know this is shocking new information to me. All of this stuff is new to me, but I just wanted to put this out there so people could be aware that we're not doing certain things correctly, and we're going to get them in order, okay? So shalom, peace, and blessings. Again, Christ is risen. Indeed, he has risen, and we'll see you in the next video.